Oh god, for this I need a real drink. Hey, welcome back to the Chamber of Spoilers. I'm Rachel, and today we're back to Twitter drama. I love it. I hate it. Twitter's the bad place. Don't go there. Hi, Pippin. How do you feel about all this? So this week's Antisemite of the Week is more Antisemite of the Week featuring bonus transphobia. So when we've talked about this stuff before, we've often mentioned that different kinds of discrimination go hand in hand. Racism and transphobia, sexism and racism, and now the newest, most fun combo, antisemitism and transphobia. Yay! Antisemitism now featuring bonus transphobia! It's not new information that being a bigot comes with kind of an equal opportunity to hate other protected groups. So this week we're talking about Helen Joyce. She became the main character of Twitter last week following the release of her book. From all indications, this book is another transphobic screed that villainizes trans women as horrifying predators and infantilizes and objectifies trans men as children in need of rescue. Now, I'm cisgender, so a lot of trans people can probably talk about this with a lot better perspective than I can, but I still wanted to bring it up because Helen Joyce not only came out as a TERF, she led with anti-Semitism, which is certainly a choice. I'm honestly not that surprised because while TERFism is more accepted in society, a lot of people who have these grand conspiracy theories about how protected groups are actually villains put together multiple conspiracy theories to create that worldview. And a lot of people who really get into conspiracy theories really go into what some people call the anti-Semitic zone of no return. But generally speaking, you can totally hate trans people just as an entity, and people will go, yes, that is a very valid political opinion. Please continue to have it. This was great free speech. And while I would say most people aren't default anti-Semitic, a lot of people believe conspiracy theories that are based in anti-Semitism, even if they don't know it. This is why we get so antsy when people blame the banks, because you might mean the Jews. We actually probably need to do a more in-depth episode about dog whistles later, but for now, Helen Joyce. Joyce is a staff writer at The Economist, and her personal website claims she's a journalist writing about gender ideology. This immediately rubbed me the wrong way, because of ideology being tacked onto the end of gender identity. Gender identity is a phrase that is used in the common parlance. But ideology implies a unified theory of gender identity, which there certainly isn't. But ideology also feels like a really hostile word. Ideology, yuck. So there are two main reasons people think that Joyce's ideas are anti-Semitic. Now, I'm going to address the transphobia as we go along, but just assume that everything in the book is transphobic because the book is based on transphobic ideas. It's based on the idea that there is one unified ideology, that all trans people are part of this conspiracy, and that basically anybody who's being transed is a victim, except for trans women who are predators. So just assume that all the rhetoric in this book is horrifying and harmful and just perpetuating horrible ideas about this already stigmatized and disenfranchised group. But there are two things people are citing as Joyce being anti-Semitic, and we're gonna dig into that right now. So firstly, in her book, Joyce pointedly mentions donors for trans rights who are Jewish millionaires and billionaires, and goes out of her way, I guess, not to mention the other people who have donated trans rights who are not Jewish. She also has cited conservative thought haver and Nazi Jennifer Bilek, which, to me, if you're citing Nazis, maybe reevaluate your life a little bit. Maybe think about that. That just seems to me to be a red flag, or 5. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just projecting, being overly sensitive. Firstly, number 1 immediately passes the anti-Semitic smell test for me. If this book is, as she claims,
thoroughly researched,
it's a big oversight to not include other wealthy people funding trans charities, like Mackenzie Bezos, noted non-Jewish person. Also, the idea that Jewish billionaires and millionaires are behind a cabal of endocrinologists and the medical industry that is transing the youth and puppet mastering this whole business is incredibly anti-Semitic and also ridiculous. That is what you call an anti-Semitism. The idea that this huge conspiracy is being spearheaded by Jews in order to make money, and they're manipulating and stealing away our children, that factors into a lot of different conspiracy theories about Jews. So let's put a pin in that. Second, if you cite someone in your
thoroughly researched
book, I would expect at the very least that you know they're a Nazi and an anti-Semite, and that other people might think the same of you. According to Bilek, trans rights are a global conspiracy to enslave the world that controls the media and every major institution, and happens to be filled with Jews. Soros, John Stryker, Jennifer Pritzker, Martine Rothblatt. This is a Protocols of the Elders of Zion style conspiracy with an unusual method. Eventually, she progressed past covert antisemitism and onto naming the Jew, repeatedly sharing the Nazi Keith Wood's musings on the Jewish aspect of the conspiracy. There's also the fact this book just exists. Like, again, not trans, but I think trans people probably have a better handle on the experience of being transgender than cis journalists. What's really troubling about this is that her book has sold out, which really kind of casts a horrifying glow for me onto the fact this issue just does not matter to people. Or if it does matter to them, they want to have their preconceptions of what it means to be trans and their ideas about how transgenderism is targeting the youths and transing our children. They want those opinions reinforced, and so they're buying this book that they know will reinforce the opinions they already have. But it kind of reminds me, which if you're not from a protected group, sometimes it's hard to remember that their oppression happens to them every day. And I'm very much in a leftist bubble. Everybody on my timeline was roundly condemning this and criticizing this book, but when I started doing research to look into it, there were hundreds of tweets from middle-aged people who thought this book was a very good representation of what it must be to be trans. Hey, how are you? It's really horrifying to me that there are all these people out there who are willing to bare their souls, trans people who are willing to talk about their experiences and lay bare the most personal details of their lives and their anatomy, and people are still more interested in speculating on their experiences through the lens of people who have never been through them. The idea that this journalist, who's worked at a conservative magazine for a decade and a half, knows more and has more interesting opinions in her
thoroughly researched
book about the experience of trans people than actual trans people who are willing to open their lives to the public is just kind of nauseating. The only negative responses to this book I could find are people who I followed. Trans people, leftists, Jews, all of the above. And there were some allies in there, but their voices were simply drowned out by the resounding confirmation of her beliefs coming from these boomers and I assume older millennials who just don't give a shit about trans people. And it is really reassuring to see people on my side of the political aisle call this stuff out. But the fact that Helen Joyce's Jewish colleagues at The Economist are defending her, I don't like to use the phrase race traitor, but it very much feels like I have a black friend, but it very much feels like the black friend defense. I'll try saying that 5 times fast. The black friend defense, the black friend defense, meaning that, oh, I have a black friend, so I can't be racist. Well, one Jewish person in your life who can vouch for you doesn't mean that you're not an anti-Semite. So now let's look at some tweets. I really appreciate Diana Anderson for reading this book because they are taking one for the team. They said, the entire premise of Joyce's book is, life was fine when I could pretend trans people were a tiny group that I wouldn't ever encounter in my daily life, and now I know about them, and that sucks. It's just so real. Helen, why didn't you mention the huge donation Mackenzie Scott made to trans rights? Was that because she isn't Jewish and or trans? Just want to chime in here. I'm both a Jew and a historian who studies, amongst other things, anti-Semitism. Alleging secret Jewish cabals threatening kids is anti-Semitic, regardless of the author's intentions. Hit it on the head there, David. Bless you. Helen Joyce is a textbook 21st century anti-Semite. She thinks Jewish billionaires are doing men talk the mind takers telepathy to make my friends transgender. My I'm not an anti-Semite tweet is provoking a lot of questions already answered by my tweet. These just get more and more ridiculous. Okay, this is my favorite part. So this is actually how I think a lot of people found out about this, because there were some quiet accusations at first. Then Helen Joyce posted this absolute gem of a tweet. I see a number of people are accusing me of anti-Semitism. This is profoundly untrue, hurtful, and damaging. I will give people who have tweeted such accusations 48 hours to delete their tweets. If this isn't done, I will consider legal action. Oh my god, she got ratioed so hard. It is kind of funny when public figures threaten to take legal action about people talking about them, because it's like, I swear to God, posting this kind of tweet gets you way more attention than just shutting up and living through it. What really makes me so crazy about this is just like the ludicrousness of it. It's so bananas. It's so stupid. The idea that this book was published by Simon & Schuster, no less. I mean, they're publishing Jared Kushner's book. Well, that will be a train wreck of another nature. But, like, the fact that this is being published by a Big Five publisher, it's selling out, it is an important reminder that, like, the mainstream doesn't care about trans people. They can put Laverne Cox on the cover of as many Vogues as they want. They can certify Pose 100% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, but nobody really cares about the actual lived experiences of trans people more than they care about making money off saying that they're bad. So I think what we've learned today is anti-Semitism is equal opportunity. When people go to the bigot buffet, they usually stop for dessert. Thank you for joining us. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I really need you right now. Thank you for being such a good boy. Who's my baby? You're my baby. Look at him, he's so handsome. Oh, I have both. Kiss. Kiss. Kiss each other. He's so soft. Freedom for you. You're a good boy, Pippin. You didn't knock the camera over once.